party, visiting the members that were in the headquarters of this political party, Ciudadanos por la Innovación. He was arrested then. He spent like 9 months in prison. He was released in July 2023. And then he put a complaint against one of the policemen that tortured him during his detention. It's difficult to believe, but he was the one who put the complaint against the policeman, and then the policeman accused him of defamation, and he was arrested again. So he was arrested at the end of January this year, and now the thing is like he has been transferred to another prison without access to his lawyer, with his family really knowing anything about him. So for the last month, nobody knows what is happening to Anacleto. And this is quite significant, because what is happening in this case is the government is using this as an example to other human rights defenders. It's like, if you do your legitimate work as a human rights defender, this is going to be happening to you. So the idea is like to threaten them, to frighten them, so they stop doing their work. So they are working really in an hostile environment and with a lot of challenges. Finally, one of the main issues that we have also in Equatorial Guinea is torture. Torture, different stages and from different institutions is quite common. So people usually, when they are detained, they are tortured. They are also tortured when they are in prison, at the police stations. We have been documenting and receiving cases of these kinds of practices. One of the cases that we included in our report last year, it was the case of Julio Obama Nefuman. He was a political opponent with Spanish citizen nationality, and he is a member. He was a member, of the Movimiento para la Liberación de la Tercera República. He was based in Spain, and with other colleagues, he traveled to South Sudan. And from there, it was directly kidnapped and taken to Equatorial Guinea. Julio, with his colleagues and other people, he was trailed in a macro trial that took place in 2019. And he was condemned with his colleagues. And he was in a prison in Equatorial Guinea when last year, in January 2023, his death, it was confirmed. So the thing is that there were reports that he had been tortured, and it was because of the torture that it was inflicted to him that he finally died. This is a case that it was condemned by the European Parliament, that issued a resolution asking the Equatorial Guinea government to open an investigation about what happened. The Equatorial Guinea government said that he had health issues, and that was the cause of the death. But the body has not been given to the family. So this is one of the calls that lawyers and the family are asking for the corpse to be delivered to the family, so they can know where the real reasons for the death of Julio. So what happened to Julio is an extreme case, is that someone that died through, of course, the torture that he received. But we documented several cases of people that were arbitrarily arrested or arrested with no reason, that were also tortured at different instances. So that is one of the main concerns that we also have about the human rights situation of Equatorial Guinea. And I think that they are the main concerns that were included in the annual report and the ones that we are following.
Thank you so much, Marta. Thank you for the presentation. The case of Julio, quite disturbing, and also showing across different rights violations, from arbitrary detention to torture, death in custody, and then, of course, depriving family members of having access to his body, and then, issues also around freedom of expression and the rights of human rights defenders, a thing of concern. Thank you so much for that presentation. I see questions. There are already questions on the chat box. And I also see one person has raised his hand. Could you please allow us, Kabalu, if you don't mind, if you can just do a thumbs up, if you can, if you don't mind, we get the last presentation from Nigeria, and then we can take up questions, except it's very pressing. We just want to do that all at once. I hope you understand that. Thank you so much. On that note, I will call on the last presenter, not the list, Maurice Kanasi Chukwu, who is a researcher for Amnesty International Nigeria. Maurice, please. Thank you so much. Maurice, can you hear us? Are you online? Are you having a problem? Okay, Maurice.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here. I'll be speaking to some of the issues, human rights issues we reported in 2023 in Nigeria, issues bordering on freedom of expression, particularly the rights of journalists, unlawful attacks and killings, torture and other ill treatment, issues bordering on economic, social, and cultural rights, such as forced evictions, and the right to a healthy environment. And then there were massive violations of international law, comprising abuses by armed groups, attacks on educational institutions, unlawful attacks and killing by security forces, and enforced disappearances. Then there are issues around violence against women and girls, LGBTI people's rights, and internally displaced persons. So in 2023, basically, in summary, there were sanctions against the media, and criminal charges were preferred against journalists for alleged defamation using the obnoxious Nigerian cyber security law. And then defense and security forces also used excessive force, mainly to disperse protests. And several people were tortured during police interrogation. Authorities continue to carry out forced evictions all throughout the country, particularly in Lagos State. And the authorities failed to put in place measures to mitigate the impact of climate change. There were massive flooding in Nigeria, leading to deaths and destruction of properties in hundreds and thousands. And then all parties to the armed conflicts, both in the southeast and in the northeast, committed violation of international laws. There were cases of forced disappearances in Nigeria, particularly in the northeast and in the southeast. And then sexual and gender-based violence continued and remained rampant across the country in 2023. Several people were charged, particularly men, under the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act of 2014, which in effect carries a 14-year imprisonment. And then some internally displaced persons, owing to the conflict in the northeast, they lack sufficient food and access to basic amenities. So as time permits us, we'll proceed to give some of these examples, particularly last year. The abuse of the rights of journalists, particularly stifling of freedom of information, was very rife across the country. On 14th March, the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission fined 25 radio stations and TV stations over their comments made by their guests during the build-up to the general elections of 2023. And then the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission continues also to fine specific television stations targeted. Particularly, Channels TV was fined about 6,540 USD for views expressed by a political campaigner who is the presidential candidate of the opposition Labour Party during a TV program. But then on 10th May, the Federal High Court Abuja, a Federal High Court sitting in Abuja ruled, and this is quite an impressive and welcome judgment, that the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission has no right to impose fines on journalists and broadcast stations. And then freedom of expression continued to be stifled. A Labour candidate supporter, Chude Franklin Nnamdi, a journalist, was arrested and detained for several years under the Cyber Crimes Prohibition Act. This happened in Anambra State. And then the authorities withdrew the accreditation of about 25 journalists from covering the presidential, from the presidential villa, giving vague reasons of security concerns and overcrowding over the press gallery area. But this was in effect an attempt to continue to stifle freedom of expression particularly in media, from media houses that are perceived to criticize the activities of the government. The NBC, despite the court ruling, continued to issue warnings to TV stations. This was on October 7th, and gave them final warnings for criticizing the president. And then, of course, the most striking was the manhandling of the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade J.R. Ajero, who was beaten and blindfolded by the Imo State government. Imo is one of the 36 states of the country, over protests against unpaid wages and salaries and pensions. So over the year, throughout last year, journalists had a lot to contend with the authorities for doing their job, particularly when they carry out investigative research. Most of them were targeted for alleged criminal defamations because their reports indicted those in authority. A particular case is that of Abba Jalingo, who continued to face criminal charges over a report he made against a family member or relative of former governor of Cross River State. And then on 7 February last year, journalists Gidado Yashao and Alfred Elufemi, they were convicted of conspiracy and defamation over a report on drug abuse by state authorities. And then on April 18, a police officer assaulted a photojournalist for covering a protest of aviation union workers. Of course, Comrade Moyole Sowore, prisoner of conscience, continued to face prosecution in last year for calling for protest over socioeconomic affairs in the country. Luckily, following intense campaign by Amnesty International, the charges were dropped. The treasonable felony charges were dropped early this year, and he continues, however, to face cyber stalking charges. And then there are also been another thing we reported was issues relating to unlawful attacks and killings, which are rampant in the country all through 2024. Particularly the killings by police, and there was a particular case in Edo State where a young gentleman was killed because he refused to give a bribe of 100 naira, which is about $0.13 in Delta State. And then, of course, we all witnessed the leaked government memo on July 19th in Lagos State that revealed that the government of Lagos State had in its possession 103 bodies of people killed during the EndSARS protests in 2020, and they have concluded arrangement to carry out mass burial of those bodies. Following intense campaign by Amnesty International, the burial has been suspended as Amnesty demanded for the identities of those 103 individuals. So also in that same year, we also saw the conviction of the police officer Dramadi Vandi, who was also convicted by High Court in Lagos State for killing the pregnant lawyer who was killed on the 25th of December, 2022. And then in relation to torture and other e-treatment in 2023, this also remained rampant across the country. On July 30, a certain Faiz Abdullahi died in police custody in Kaduna State, after being tortured during investigation. He was a young man. And then Abdullahi Tuko Alba, a 70-year-old student, also died in hospital following torture during interrogation after he was picked up by the police on 5th August in Yola, Adamawa State. So across the country, these are just pockets of cases, but the cases were rampant. Of course, for time constraint, we cannot go in depth, but torture and other e-treatment, particularly by the police and the security forces during interrogations, remained rampant in 2023. And then for economic, social, and cultural rights, on 29th May, as the new president was being sworn in on 29th May, President Tinubu announced the removal of fuel subsidy, leading to a steep rise in food prices and cost of living. And this was the case all through 2023 and has continued all through 2024. And then on 2nd August, the Nigeria Labour Congress went on strike over issues including low wages and the 8 months non-payment of salary for university teachers. And then, of course, yes, in a bit of a cheering news, on 1st October last year, 2023, President Tinubu announced a temporary monthly minimum wage increase of 25,000 naira, which is about 31 USD, which is an increment from the 15,000 minimum wage. So generally, all through 2023, economic, social, and cultural rights were not protected, and the authorities continue to deny these rights because under Section 6 of the Constitution of Nigeria, 1999, these rights are said to be non-justiciable, meaning that no one can go to court if these rights are not protected by the state. But we at Amnesty International Nigeria will continue to campaign and insist that these rights are indeed human rights that need to be protected in line with our regional and international obligations, particularly with decisions given by the regional ECOWAS court that these rights are enforceable. And then in continuation, the authorities continue to carry out forced evictions all throughout 2023 across Kaduna State, across Lagos State, and other states in the country in Port Harcourt. Particularly on 27 July, 12,000 people were rendered homeless and over 250 houses were demolished in communities in Oworoshoki community in Lagos State, Nigeria. So this course across the country on 21 and 22 May, security agents in Kaduna also destroyed the authorities belonging to destroyed properties and structures belonging to Islamic Movement of Nigeria. And then in Abuja, a first division remained rampant in Durumi too and other communities. Of course, right to a healthy environment is part of the things we canvass for in 2023. And the authorities failed to put in place adequate measures to mitigate the impact of heavy rainfall and flood caused by climate change. And then in June, about 266 houses were submerged in flooding in Abuja alone, and about 8 people died in Agege community in Lagos State. And then the food security also continues to be affected by climate crisis, owing to the failure of the authorities to put in adequate measures to mitigate its impact. In Obaru, in August, about 2,500 birds died in a factory owing to flooding. And then oil-related pollution in the Niger Delta continued to damage communities. The cleanup by Shell remained inadequate. Shell had not explained up to today how it plans to address this pollution of Nigerian communities linked to its operation as it seeks to exit the Nigerian downstream sector. And then beyond this, there continues to be violation of international humanitarian law across the country in 2023 by armed groups in the Northeast, and the bandits in the Northeast, Boko Haram and ISWAP. And then in the Southeast, a new group known as Unknown Gunmen continue to cause havoc and destabilize the security of the area. On 23 January, the government beheaded Christopher Ohizu, a local government administrator in Imo State, Southeast Nigeria. And then on 5 and 6 April, government killed at least 46 people in the village of Umogidi in Benue State. On 22 August, Boko Haram fighters abducted over 40 women and girls in Mafo local government area of Borno State. And on 19 September, gunmen attacked and hit about 8 security operatives comprising soldiers, police officers, and members of security and civil defense corps in Ehime Bano in local government. And on 24 December, Christmas Eve, gunmen carried out deadly attacks on about 20 communities in Bokos and parts of Barikin local government area of Plateau State, killing over 494 people and leaving dozens injured. You can see that the situation indeed is critical. And also, of course, other attacks have continued to go on in violation of international human rights law and humanitarian law, particularly with attacks on several educational institutions across the country in 2023. The Nigerian state failed to protect educational institutions from attacks and abductions. On January, government attacked and abducted about 6 pupils aged 4 to 6 from LGA Primary School in Nasarawa State. And in March, herders attacked the community grammar school in Oyo State, injuring pupils and teachers. And on 26 September, government abducted schoolgirls, about 30 schoolgirls from their hostels at the Federal University in Guruzo in Zamfara State, northern Nigeria. And on 4th October, government attacked the Federal University in Katsina and abducted 5 female students. On 9th October, the abduction and attacks on schools continued when 4 female students were abducted at the Nasarawa State University in Nasarawa State. So these are quite troubling, and we'll continue to document this and follow up. Some of these abducted students have been released, and others are still being held by the government. And then there have been a lot of attacks and killings by security forces in violation of international human rights law. In September, security forces attacked a village in Ehime Bano local government area of Imo State, stating several houses and vehicles ablaze in reprisal attacks, overcilling of members of security forces comprising the civil defense and the police and the military. And then on 3rd December, Nigerian military carried out airstrikes and killed over 120 people attending a religious ceremony in Kaduna State in a village called Tudumbiri village in Kaduna State. So the military continues to carry out reprisal attacks in 2023 on lawful airstrikes in civilian settlements and on civilians. And this is in strict violation of international humanitarian law. And then an issue that has been rampant also all through 2023 and continuing into 2024 is the issue of enforced disappearances. In 2023, Madabuto Binwa, a 22-year-old young man, was disappeared after his abduction on 24 April, when security agents from the Okuzu State Criminal Investigation Department raided his house in Ekulobia in Anambra State. And then Obiora Abasimalo, a governorship candidate, was abducted by gunmen on 18 September while going to an election campaign outing in Azia Town in Anambra State. And then, unsurprisingly, it has been the case all through the year. Sunday Ifede and Kalista Ifede, a couple, we are taking their security operatives from their home in Enugu on 23 November. And because of their alleged membership of the indigenous people of Biafra, the fates and whereabouts of all these people remained unknown at the end of the year and has continued to be the same all through 2024. And then in 2023, we also considered issues relating to violence against women and girls. And then according to the Ministry of Women Affairs, as of October, there were 24,720 reported cases of sexual and gender-based violence during the year, including 975 deaths. And this is quite alarming. These figures are quite confirmed. They are confirmed figures and they are quite alarming. On June, an 8 months pregnant woman was raped by one John Agbo in Benue State. And on 22 June, the police arrested Chukwemeka for raping a 13-year-old domestic worker in Abia State. And then in a troubling event on 14 July, the mutilated body of a 32-year-old Dr. Sange was found in Makurudi in Benue State. And then...
Can you look at your chat box? Yes, you have just about 30 seconds to round up, please.
30 seconds, okay.
Yes.
So the rights of the LGBT people also continue to be violated. On 27th August, police arrested 69 gay men for organizing a gay wedding in Delta State. And on 4th September, they were charged under the Same-Sex Prohibition Act at the High Court in Delta State, and they continue to be detained in prison, and their trial is ongoing. And then on 19 September, they were granted bail, of course. And then on 22 October, 59 men and 17 women were arrested at Dua Plaza Shopping Mall in Gombe State for allegedly holding a gay birthday party and planning to hold a gay wedding. While finally, the rights of internally displaced persons, those that have been resettled, continue to be violated, and as they lack basic amenities, including adequate housing and sanitation facilities. Thank you very much. Sorry, I had to rush this.
Thank you so much, Morris. I allowed you about 1 or 2 minutes more because Martha actually had extra time, but thank you so much. Enormous issues, enforced disappearances. I see correlation with issues on torture as it's applicable also in the Equatorial Guinea, issues of economic and social cultural rights, forced evictions, climate change resonating with when we started, I mentioned the preface by the Secretary General of Amnesty International, issues around climate change, but also issues of cleaning by Shell, which we're aware it's exiting Nigeria, yet to know what the plan is. And also, concerns around regulation of the media, and that also resonates with HRD issues in the Equatorial Guinea. And also to mention, initially, I didn't mention the issue of Equatorial Guinea, the prolonged, whether we would call it, I'm not sure we can call it a democratic government in Equatorial Guinea, having been there for so many years. Thank you so much for your presentation, Morris. Before we go into the questions, I see so many questions. I see also people wanting to volunteer and be part of Amnesty International. Thank you, Desiree, for sharing the link. If you look at the chat box, Desiree has shared how to become a member. If you click on the link, it will give you the instructions on how to complete that. Before I go into some of the questions that are on the chat box and maybe open up for others, Initially, we had Kabalu Kalonji, whose hands have been up for about almost 20 minutes. Please, the floor is yours. You can have the mic, please. And please, can I just ask that if you're making a comment or a question, let's try and make it as succinct as possible. As much as there are so many participants, and to allow the presenters to respond, it would be good if we can stick to a direct question or to a comment, maximum of 40 to 60 seconds, please. Thank you. Fatima, if you can allow Kabalu, please, to unmute. Thank you. Okay, while that is being sorted out, to save time, I will just read through the questions while that is being sorted out. Once Kabalu is up, I'll take note of that. Questions had come in initially. I think the first question I saw. Okay, Kabalu, are you on? Let me allow you go on. Yes, please. Sorry, please. I can't hear you. I'm not sure if any of the panelists, can you hear him? Kabalu, can I ask that please either you go off and come back, or you please chat, send your message or information on the chat box. We can barely hear you. Thank you. Unfortunately, I didn't get that. Maybe if any of the panelists got it, please draw my attention to it. I didn't get that because the network is not clear. So sorry for that. Please use the chat box because of the network, or go off and come back. Thank you so much. I will take one more person who has raised their hand. Adamu Suleiman Bawa, please.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. I remain Adamu Suleiman Bawa from Sokoto State, part of Nigeria, Northwest. My question is, I'm full member of Amnesty. I support them. The only question, last year they sent me a mail that if I want to become international representative, which I said yes. They asked me since last year, November, they will send the document for me to register. Up to now, there is no any response. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've taken note of that. Adamu, can I ask, just for the records, can you know the email, you've sent it, can you just resend, and we'll draw the attention of the relevant department that is in charge of that? Thank you. Hello, can you hear me now? Yes, Adamu, I said if you could please just resend in the email, and we'll draw the attention of the relevant department to address that. Thank you for your understanding. I have a question, and I think is for Michelle from the chat box, which talks about what is the organization doing to engage government officials in the Gambia to make them understand the importance of human rights laws so that they can protect these rights themselves. This is from Shoaib Saad from Nigeria. Another question here, I think this same person has to do with membership. Please use the link that has been shared by Desiree if you feel you still want to express yourself via an email, depending on the country, but in the if you go there, you would be able to use the link. But of course, for those that I can see that are Nigeria specific, you can send via the email you've always engaged with, info@amnesty.org.nigeria. It will be responded to. Some more questions. Another person, Fine Ologboroko, says, the first speaker, I think from the Gambia, briefed us on human rights situation in Gambia. He talked about marital rape in Gambia. How can one campaign publicly against marital rape in Gambia and other countries like Nigeria, where we believe that marriage gives us total right to our wives? So the rights of protection, spousal rape, and all that. I think he wants to know broadly how it's been done in Gambia and how that can be applied in other contexts. Okay. Someone is asking a question, and I think, okay, someone is asking a question, and I think I would assign that maybe to Maurice. How can one report a complaint for human rights? If so, how do you validate it? Is it possible for an alleged individual for human rights violation to complain to Amnesty? Before Maurice answers, I would say yes to that question. Use the relevant channels and links that we have available, the info, if it is. Okay, yes. Another question has to do with how can Amnesty know when the rights of a human rights defender are violated by security agency? I think I'll assign that also to Maurice. Another question for Gambia. What is Amnesty International doing regarding human rights during Yahya Jammeh's regime? We understand that Ruth Brody, the American international lawyer for human rights, is working tirelessly to bring Yahya Jammeh to justice. I think I have like 2 questions for Gambia. One question, I have 2 questions for Maurice, and apologies. I would want Michelle to respond to the 2 questions for Gambia, and then Maurice, and then I'll bring back 2 questions for Martha. Thank you. Maurice, please. Maurice, are you available? If Maurice is not here, please, Michelle, can you pick up the questions that were asked too for Gambia?
Yes, Barbara, thank you. I believe I heard 3 questions, so I'll combine 2 and then I'll answer the other one. When it comes to what we are doing to inform the government of human rights violation and how they can better human rights, that's something we do constantly. So when we're working, we're always trying to engage the government. So, for example, in 2021, we did an analysis of all the laws in Gambia that could violate human rights. So we did a list of all the laws that the government needs to change to put it in line with its human rights obligations. And when we did that, we tried to engage with the government to present that research to them. Unfortunately, we were not able to meet with them, but they did see our analysis. They responded to it publicly. And we saw that afterwards, the law for the against torture was passed, which was a good news. And we see that now the National Assembly is working on modifying the criminal code. So we hope that they'll keep doing that. We also met with all the candidates, with all the major parties during the elections, and we presented them with the human rights agenda. We had like, I think it was 10-point agenda with different social, economic, civil, and political rights that are important to maintain in Gambia. And we had them sign, most of the party agreed to sign the human rights agenda, which basically bind them to respect human rights when they are in office. Last year, we published a report on overfishing and the impact that it has on the population. And we share this information with the Ministry of Fishery. We try to meet with them. So we always engage with the government, which brings me back to the second questions about what we're doing about violation during Yahya Jammeh. Amnesty International has always been involved since Yahya Jammeh was even in power to push the government to address those violations. So we also working tirelessly on this. We've been vocal during Yahya Jammeh's government about the different violation. We documented it. And we've, ever since the TRC process started, we've engaged with the TRC, we met with the TRC, we pushed them to publish the report because it was pushed back for a while. So we met with them, made sure that the importance, to address the importance of making the reports public. We also drafted the open letter, you can see it online, to the Ministry of Justice to ask him to accept all the recommendation of the TRC. And that letter was drafted by Amnesty and co-signed by a lot of human rights organizations, national and international. And we continue to engage with them and to make sure that access to justice happens for the victims of Yahya Jammeh's government. When it comes to marital rape, basically, we are always following international human rights law. So whether it's in the marital relationship or not, it goes against the bodily integrity, the right to bodily integrity and dignity to for someone to have sexual relationships. So a spouse cannot beat another spouse just because they're married or force them to have sexual relations because of that. So that goes against human rights and against treaty signed by Gambia under international law. Thank you, Barbara. I think I've responded to all the questions.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Maurice, I'll just add one more question to you so that you answer them collectively. Someone is wondering how many individuals died in EndSARS who wanted to be buried. I think he's concerned more about those that died in EndSARS, if there's any documentation that Amnesty has done towards that. Over to you, Maurice. Thank you.
So, sorry, can I get the two questions?
I had already, I read out the question.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Morris?
Yes, go ahead. Can you repeat the question?
Okay, so the question initially
Yes,
were
please.
questions, broad questions, not just specific to Nigeria, but someone is wondering, they had asked how they can report the complaint on human rights issues, abuses, torture by citizens from, I mean, generally speaking. And then if so, how does Amnesty validate that violation has occurred? Yes, I think that was one question. I think that was, I had two questions for you. I had two questions for you. Well, and then the second one is someone wants to know how many people died in the EndSARS. Then the third one, I'll give you a third question. Most of the organizations—
I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
The line is breaking.
Okay, can I have a thumbs up if anyone else can hear me? Just, Kabalu, can you just do a thumbs up and then I know if you can hear me? Okay, thank you so much.
I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you so much. So the question, Maurice, how many people died in EndSARS is the question. And then how can people report human rights violations in any of the countries listening to our webinar today? And how is Amnesty able to verify the violation? Those are the three questions, if you can hear. If I don't hear from you in a second or two, I would allow those who have raised their hands to speak, please.
All right, so for the first question, can you hear me? Can I go on?
Yes, please, go ahead. Go ahead, yes, please.
Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Maurice, we can hear you.
Okay, so for the first question, how to report human rights abuses on human rights defenders, on indeed anyone. So for us at Amnesty International Nigeria, we have dedicated email address, info@amnesty.org.ng, that you can always send us a mail. We have our dedicated phone numbers on our website. You can always call us on phone, but the most effective way to report these abuses is to send us an email. We have a dedicated staff monitoring the info@amnesty.org.ng email address, and we'll certainly get back to you once we receive your email. Then if it's pretty urgent and it's during working hours, you can call our office lines. It's on our website. Always visit info@amnesty.org.ng, info@amnesty.ng for any information you want about us. And from there, you can report every abuse. And then, of course, if you're in Abuja, you can easily walk into our office and you will be attended to. And then for the second question, EndSARS October 2020, there's no official record on the number of people that died. Unfortunately, there's no official data on that. And then for us at Amnesty, we have documented 12 deaths on October 2020, 10 at the Lekki Toll Gate and 2 at the Alausa Secretariat. So for us, those are the figures we have in our organization. But then, of course, we all know what happened when the memo leaked, the Lagos State government memo that says the state government had in its possession 103 bodies and they had concluded plans to do a mass burial. So that also adds to the figures. Of course, the government has come out to complain that they were not really at Lekki Toll Gate and all that. There were bodies picked across the state during the protests and all of that. So we in Nigeria too, we monitored all the panels set by 26 state governments to document what transpired during the EndSARS protests. We sent representatives to all the panels, we monitored all the activities, but unfortunately, it's only Lagos that submitted their report and Abuja submitted, but it was not made public. So the findings of these panels, some of them have not concluded. So there are no official figures for now, but hopefully, if these panels set up by government are able to release their reports, we can begin to, from whatever they will determine that there are a number of deaths, we can begin to add to the figures that we have, the 12 we have that happened on October 20th. And for the third question, I didn't get it. If you can type it or you can mention it again, I will attempt an answer.
Okay, I'll come back to you. There seem to be a lot of questions for Nigeria. I'll tease out one or two, but before we go back to that, I would, Kabalu, I'll give you one more opportunity because of time. So sorry for that. If you can speak as much as possible in 30 seconds so that we allow others. Thank you. Kabalu, are you online? Okay, Kabalu, are you unmuted or? Okay, while that is happening, Ephraim, okay, Odili Stephen, I think his hand has been up in a while. Odili Stephen, please. The mic is yours. Can you please unmute Odili Stephen, since I think Kabalu, I'm not getting him.
Good afternoon from here. Am I?
Okay, Odili, I've muted you, sorry, so that Kabalu can speak because he was, yes, please, Kabalu, in 30 seconds, and please, if it doesn't work, kindly please chat in the box, please. We have our French colleagues here, they will be able to interpret for us, so even if you're speaking French, I don't know what language, but please do that, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Very faint, very faint again, very faint. I'll please plead with you to please, your bandwidth is saying is very low. Can I please plead with you to include it in the, yes, please, thank you. Can you please unmute Odili? Odili, please, thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, my wonderful sister. I want to sincerely thank AI for their effort, globally, holding government of respective countries to account. But then talking about human rights violations, from the account given or report given by our respective speakers here, the judiciary was not seems to be mentioned, because we have what I call judicial rascality. Rascality, when this right of citizens are violated, what the judiciary sets this government or police or army free from, paying compensations. How do we get judiciary to account? That is one. Secondly, government is a system. Then the actors are human individuals. For example, Nigeria previous regime, Buhari administration, we witnessed a lot of killings, violations of human rights. Then we said that it was, enjoying immunity, that nobody could touch him. But right now, those actors are no longer state actors. They've gone home. How can amnesty get them to account?
Okay.
That is the second question. I have the final one, sorry. I will be very
Yes, 5 seconds, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, my sister. Now, again, look at what happened at Okwama in Delta State, where the army went in there and killed people and covered up what they did. Because up to today, we're still asking who called the army? How did they get there? But army was able to sell propaganda across board and said that people attacked them. That was what they told us, and they massacred this community. The same thing happened at Nnamdi Kanu's residence in Abia, and they killed him, and they killed many people there, including animals. You can imagine, and the young man escaped from the country. What are we doing now? The young man was given clearance by appeal court. He was set free. Yet judiciary convened the same meeting the next day and returned the man back to court.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
what
so
are
much.
we doing to get this right of individual violated, as in to get them free from these things that we are locked up for not doing anything offensive against the state, or state
Thank you
using their
so much.
powers against them? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Like I said, please kindly stick to 30 seconds as much as possible so that we can attend to everybody's question.
Thank you, my sister.
Yes, please. Before the question you asked, Stephen, would be given to Maurice. Maurice, just take note of Stephen's question. In the meantime, I have some questions for Equatorial Guinea. What is the response of Equatorial Guinea's government to AI's campaign against human rights abuses and torture? That's for Equatorial Guinea. We'll come back to that. And I think I would also add that for Mata, I know this is specific to Nigeria, but would like to hear, I think it's a movement, one global movement. So someone is wondering, apart from taking data and reporting human rights, how can Amnesty International defend people around the world? How punishments, okay, I'm not sure this is so clear, but generally, how, apart from data documentation, data collection and reporting, how can Amnesty defend the rights of people across the world? How does Amnesty do that work across the world? That question is for Martha. I would allow Dr. Osagi Eweka, one more, please, as much as possible, 15 seconds, please summarize. Thank you so much. Sorry, before Martha comes up and Maurice, Dr. Osagi, please ask your question and then Martha will be next. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I want to quickly ask a question, and this question is directed at Mr. Maurice. I thought in this course of presenting, some of these research and findings about, human rights abuses and the conditions of social and economic, welfare of the people in Nigeria. He mentioned that there was a case of killing of a commercial bus driver over his refusal to part with 100 naira in Edo State. I don't know if I heard Edo State. I wasn't sure about that. But I know that incident occurred in Ondo State. So I wanted to be sure it's not Edo State I heard. That's for that. And then one other thing that concerns me that I'd like to share is the recent decision of the Speaker of the Niger State House of Assembly to marry out over 100 orphans. And I think it is it behoves on Amnesty International, which of course I am a part of, to speak against this, because I think it violates the rights to the life of a girl child. So I think I want us to also look into to talk about that. I think that's my contribution thus far. And then I've asked my question by writing, and then you have directed it on the equatorial greening, and then that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Osagie. Please, Martha, thank you.
Thanks so much for the question, Barbara. I think that it is really interesting, the question that has been issued on Equatorial Guinea, because it shows a little bit the power of the organization, the power of Amnesty International and all its members, because most of the time the authorities of Equatorial Guinea decide to ignore Amnesty's reports. They don't care about that. I think that is this kind of sense of full impunity that they think that they don't have to be accountable. But as Amnesty, we persist producing this kind of reports, and what we do is like a lot of campaigning and advocacy to give visibility to this situation. So they decide to ignore our messages, they decide to ignore our concerns, but Amnesty, because of the strength that we have with our members around the world, we do a lot of campaigning and advocacy to give visibility to the situation. So we work with government. When we issue something from this office, from the regional offices, then it goes everywhere in the world. It goes to Argentina, it goes to the US, it goes to South Africa. So Amnesty members engage in the work that we do. They put pressure on their own government. So at the end, there is a moment that the government of Equatorial Guinea feels so much pressure from companies that want to invest in the country, and they are listening that human rights violations are taking place. They feel the pressure in their embassies in all of the other countries because Amnesty members are writing their letters, sending their messages. So there is a point that at the end they cannot ignore our messages and our reports anymore. So they have to take a stand. In some cases, they decide, okay, they lie most of the time. Yeah, we are going to investigate. They have to pretend that they are doing something. But I think that this is important to illustrate the power of our organization, of all members from sections, international members, that they work for the authorities to really listen to us and to take a stand and to react to our reports. This was regarding the authorities of Equatorial Guinea, and regarding how Amnesty can help people. I think that we have to start saying that Amnesty is a campaigning and an advocacy organization. This is our work, and this is how we defend people. So if we receive the case of someone that has been victim of a violation of human rights, we document these cases. This is the work of researchers, documenting why this is happening, verifying the information that we receive. And then from there, we issue different kinds of publications. It can be a press release, it can be an urgent action, it can be a case that is included in a report. And from there, people, we analyze also the case, because there are people that want to be anonymous because the fact of dealing with Amnesty can become counterproductive, but there are other people that they don't want to put their names. So we illustrate the situation in that country. We try to engage international community. We, in many cases, people then use Amnesty report when they want to apply for an asylum. They want to explain the situation that they say, Amnesty documented my case. And this has an important value for the person. Some other cases and some other circumstances, what we do as well is like to put this person in contact with other international organizations that can support the case in different ways. So at least, we decide if this person is, we want to lower the profile in terms of he's a human rights defender, this person can be out of the country for a few months and then come back. We can, create some kind of solidarity network to protect this person. So we do different kinds of work in terms of campaigning and advocacy when we receive these kinds of cases to protect these victims of human rights violations.
Thank you so much, Martha, for elaborating on it globally, but also specifically to Equatorial Guinea. I see lots of questions around membership and reporting. Please use the link that Desiree has shared. You would get the right responses there. You'll be able to register as a member, and then the relevant units will take it up from there. Thank you so much for that. I think majority of the questions here has to do with membership and how to report human rights violation. For those that are country-specific, Nigeria, I see a lot of questions around how to get, like we said, please use the available links and also do the needful register, and then you'll be contacted. I would give 10 seconds. Shoaib, I think I had already asked your question. Maybe I'll come back to you if time permits. Temple Bright, can we hear from you in 10 to 12 seconds? I'm conscious of time and responses and participation of more members. Temple, please.
Okay, good afternoon. From the ID card, I have been a member for a while, for about 2 years, and I have not received any information concerning my membership. And how can I contact the Amnesty representative in Rivers State? So I really want to be a full member in Rivers State. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bright. The same information, Maurice had shared the info mail. And also, if, yes, for you, you have already been a member, is not to join, please kindly use, I think I initially shared it, info@amnesty.org.ng. That's for those who are based in Nigeria. The relevant responses will be sent to you. Ephraim, please. Ephraim Onuche.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I'm here.
10 seconds, yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, okay, so I'll be quick. I have listened to all the presentations. So we want to add something to what you, I just want to suggest something to AI to what you do. From the introduction, I noticed that you are doing a lot apart from human rights violations and other stuff, from economic, to a lot of things. So I noticed 2 things are missing. Partnership. I think AI needs partnership because you cannot do it all. I think you should partner, especially with, I hear someone presented something related to migration. We have IOM that you can partner with. The other thing related to economic, like other organizations, WFP, FAO, that you can partner with, and that is one. Then secondly, I also want to talk about advocacy. I think we as AI, you need to say yourself visibility. We need to increase our visibility the more, as much as we can. And thirdly, I listened to a presentation from Maurice and from Nigeria. I saw it covered a lot of things. I would also want to have an extension to next time when you're presenting from all the presenter. After the data collection, the data you provided from your presentations, we also want to know what is Amnesty doing, particularly to reduce or to mitigate, and then what is the way forward, so that we want to know all this stuff. And so that is my contribution. So advocacy is very, very important. We need
Thank you so much. Yes.
Do a lot of advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ephraim. Thank you for the suggestions and the willingness to collaborate. Thank you so much for your time. I see someone asking, I want to believe if it is Niger State, then the earlier responses on Nigeria applies. But if it is Niger, maybe I'll ask Michelle to help us. How do you report violations on human rights by government? What are the relevant channels for reporting purposes? What can or can't you submit as far as evidentiary facts? This is quite very, I don't know whether the person is from, we have Niger State in Nigeria. I'm assuming maybe the person is from Niger also. So if there's any way, maybe for people, of course, we're doing this sub-regionally and not just looking at Nigeria. How can others do? I think generally everything applies, but if there are specifics and any information you would want to share, Michelle, please, we wouldn't mind you to share that with our members here and on this webinar. Lastly, to Maurice, I want to add this. There's a question around, yes, okay, the person says, I mean Niger Republic. So Michelle, the person actually lives in Niger Republic. Lastly, to Maurice, someone is asking about the airstrikes in Kaduna. What have we done? What has Amnesty Nigeria done about it so far? I would give Michelle to respond, and then Maurice, you take it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. There are several ways that you can contact Amnesty, even the general email, and I think we're interested in hearing from people. So most of the time when we start to investigate violation, it comes from people on the ground that observe something, that contacted us, whether it's through our social media or the general email address. And it could be the way to evidentiary fact. It could be photo, it could be videos, it could be documents, evidence documents. So there are various ways that we can look forward into a violation. Obviously, we are not able to look into every single violation. It depends on the time and the capacity that we have, and also the ways we could verify the information. So sometimes it's more easy than in some countries and in other to be able to verify information. So that it depends on it goes by case, it's on a case-to-case basis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Maurice, lastly, Maurice has added also the Nigerian email, but just a response, can you respond to the question from, I think it's Odili, and also, yes, the last question I just read about Kaduna. I have 1 minute left, as much as possible, just summarize. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So for the question on reprisal attacks in Okuama, we are monitoring the situation. We have spoken to all the parties involved, and we are working on coming out with a statement, and then we can take it off from there. So it's something we are monitoring. We are working on it. We've done quite a lot. It has not yet been released. So we'll continue to monitor and document, and we'll come up at the appropriate time when we have a clear picture of all the issues, and I've spoken to all the individuals involved, and we'll come up with a statement. And then on Kano's continuous trial is also something we have written extensively in the past, we have worked on in the past. I invite you to take our websites and just Google Amnesty International Nnamdi Kanu. You'll see a lot of work we have done, and we'll continue to monitor the proceedings in courts, and continue to advocate and put pressure on the government to ensure that the right thing is done at every point in time. And then how can we defend human rights aside the report we present? That's a very good question. In addition to this report, of course, someone mentioned that advocacy, we carry out a lot of advocacy, we carry out a lot of online campaign, we visit the authorities, we write them. These are things we don't publicize. We write the authorities, we write the government, the military, whoever is involved, we visit them, we continue to make our position known, and sometimes we go to court. Presently, we are in court at the ECOWAS court, where we have filed a case of against victims of forced disappearance in the Northeast, and all the violence in the Northeast and all that. So many individuals have been disappeared by the authorities. They are presently in court against the Nigerian government, trying to enforce the rights of these people. We are also planning to do other litigations that will be far-reaching. So beyond the reports we present, we do a lot of other work. And the people always say reports. These reports, if you see the influence, the positive impact of this report that we document, you'll be amazed. We engage with the authorities, and we know how we put them on their toes. Some of the serious violations that do not take place is because they will say we don't know what Amnesty will say or do. So we are quite appreciate the impact of what we do, and we also hope that people get to see them and also continue to encourage us. Sometimes we do a lot that sometimes we even put ourselves in harm's way, continue to go to get the details, because our work is not journalism. We try to get the details, speak to the people involved, even if these are in dangerous areas. We go to these places and document accurate information. That's why we don't rush to the press with anything we see and maybe things on social media. And by the time you verify, you find out that this is not the truth. So because we document and try to get the true state of affairs at every point in time, sometimes people might think that our work is slow, but it's really quite far-reaching. And then the speaker, the thing happening in the events in Niger State, we are monitoring it. The Minister of Human Affairs has gone to court to file a case to challenge the proceedings, the marriage. That yesterday evening, the speaker has issued a press statement clarifying his position and all of that. We are monitoring everything holistically, and we are coming up with the right information that would critically address the issues. We are quite aware of it, and we are on it. And then all does I do to mitigate human rights violations? In fact, every work we do is to mitigate human rights violations. That's basically the core of our work. Everything from our reports to our advocacy, to our research, to our litigation, to our social support, to our psychological support to victims, and it's to prevent and discontinue human rights violation. And for the airstrikes in Kaduna, in fact, not just Kaduna, we've done quite a lot of work on airstrikes. We have gone to these communities, we have spoken with the people, we have gotten a detailed information about everything that's happened. We have continued to issue statements and press releases and carry out advocacy. And just early this year, we did another work in relation to the 1-year anniversary of one of the airstrikes. So I would suggest that we always go to our website to get there, and then even on our Twitter handles to get a good grasp of the kind of work we do. Every aspect of human rights in the country, there's none that we leave unaddressed. Always go to our Twitter handles. Always go to our website, particularly our Twitter handles, our social media handles, to get up-to-date information of the kind of work we do. And we are glad that you are part of this, and we'll continue to collaborate. Someone mentioned collaboration. Amnesty is collaborating a lot due to globally and in every other place, and we'll continue to engage to see that these violations and abuses are brought to a stop, and indeed everyone is able to enjoy his human rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'd love again Maurice to answer, because there are so many questions from different people. People still popping out questions. Because of time, so sorry, we are even above time with about 4 minutes. So sorry, we're unable to allow everyone to speak. Please, as we've enjoined you, kindly visit our website. Most of the questions are there for those wanting issues around membership, those wanting to understand. I see someone is asking about the office in Liberia and the particular location. Please kindly visit our website. A lot of these informations are already there. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact address to give you on that. On that note, I want to thank everyone for participating, for all our members, supporters, students, and importantly also to the panelists for your participation. In the words of Nelson Mandela, like Amnesty International, he says he had been struggling for justice and human rights for long. And he retired, and then now no more. But as long as injustice and inequality persist in our world, none of us can truly rest. We must become stronger still, and I would say we must continue to fight for human rights. On that note, I thank you all, and I wish us all a lovely time, and see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.